If you're attending an in-person convention or event or summit, you want to make sure that you're documenting it for your social media. And there's a lot of tips and tricks I have because I have been a speaker at many, many conventions. I've attended conventions and I'm a professional content creator. And I want to make sure you're saving time, effort, and stress as you're documenting your experience for social because you're paying a lot of money to go to these events in most cases. We want to make sure you're also getting marketing out of that. So let me break down tips and tricks for saving time and effort while also making sure you get exactly what you need in order to document your time at this event. Now, keep in mind, we are talking about photos and we're talking about videos. So I want you to be using your phone. You can use a camera too if you want higher quality, but that does mean you're carrying an extra device. But I just want you to grab your phone, if nothing else, you're going to be documenting as you go. Now, if it comes down to time constraint and you can only choose one, I recommend choosing video because you can always take screenshots of what you're doing later on. So I want you to make sure you're taking video, if nothing else, because all the social platforms are swaying toward video. So video is your priority, screenshots of it later, but if you can take photos while you're doing it as well, that is fine as well. Now, keep in mind, if you're using your phone, you want to be using your rear facing camera whenever possible because it's a much better quality than your front facing camera. But we will have the opportunity to do all of these things as you go, and just make sure you are actively doing this as you are participating inside of these events. So, to make sure that you are actually getting everything that you're going to need, I want you to make a shot list before you go. Now, this is going to be the bare minimum of what you want to get for what you want to create. So, before you even set foot into a convention, I want you to have a basic idea of some things that you want to get. Now, if you happen to film or take photos of more, fantastic, but this is what you need to get before you leave the building. And if you can get these earlier on in your time at this convention, it's going to save you a lot of stress trying to get it at the very end of the event. So I want you to make a shot list on your phone and check it off as you go. On iPhones and most phones, you'll have the ability to have a note section where you can actually add a little button to check things off, and you're just going to get those 5-10 shots that you really want to get and make sure you check them off, and then you can relax and enjoy the rest of your time while you're at this convention. But that's going to make sure you get what you need to create your content. Now, I also want you to be researching the venue to see if there's going to be any good photo or video locations that you could try to find if you have time. So, I want you to go on their website. I want you to go look on social media and look up the venue that you're going to be at and just kind of look at the pictures and images and videos and see if there's a really cool wall or a couch over in the corner or a quieter area where you can be doing things like interviews or talking to your camera and doing like an actual vlog style video. You're just kind of looking to see if anything's interesting looking or potentially a little bit away from things. Now, you do not have to do this step. It's just kind of gives you an added thing to be aware of to take a little bit of the stress of finding locations once you're in the moment in the actual event. So you can kind of look around, see if there's something that potentially you could use if you come across it. You can, if there's something amazing, you can actually seek it out. But otherwise, it's if you come across it or if you know you're going to need something, you'll kind of have somewhere you can peel off to with a person if you're going to be doing an interview and you need a quiet area or something like that. In that same respect, you also want to be sure that you're pulling other people into your documentation. This should not just be a you thing. Now, this can look like a lot of different things. You can pull in friends and get imagery with your friends for your social media. You can have somebody else hold your phone and document you, or you can document other people as you are doing things. So you kind of want to get a mixture of different types of content that you're creating. Because remember, we're making sure we're documenting this for social media. And we're going to talk about different types of documentation in a minute, but I really want you to have different types of video content or photo content as you're creating this. So you should have some still video where it's set on a tripod or somebody's holding it for you. You should have things that kind of sweep around the convention or moving in and out. All of these different things allow you to have different types of footage, which means your video is now going to be interesting to watch. And you want to make sure that you are pulling people into this process so that people are not just staring at the menu or just staring at you or just staring at one thing. You want to make sure you mix that up, but we're going to get into that momentarily because you want to make sure that you're documenting yourself and not just the event. So what does that mean? A lot of times people will go in with the mindset of just documenting one thing, and they'll only focus on that one thing and forget to do the other types of documentation. So I went to an event last night. It was a really fun event, and I was easily documenting the venue, the decorations, the other people, but I didn't have anybody with me to document myself. I had to actively make space for me to document myself. I had to bring a little tiny tripod. I had to set up my camera. I had to film myself. All of the footage of me is still, it's not moving, it's not sweeping around, and it's not pulled back from me too very far because I didn't have the opportunity to do that because I didn't have anybody helping me and I didn't have the space within this very, very tightly packed venue to do that. But I want to make sure that you are not just focused on getting the venue. That's cool, but that's not going to relate to your audience. Your audience needs to see you. Your audience needs to see you in that moment and in that atmosphere. So you need to be documenting yourself too. So you have to focus on how can you get footage of you. And it could be as simple as popping in a tripod and just filming yourself. It could be as simple as doing a selfie video of yourself. It could be having somebody hold your camera and filming on your behalf. There's a lot of ways that you can be doing it, but you've got to make sure you get at least some documentation of yourself. So keep in mind, as you're creating your video-based content, it absolutely should be a mix of you and everything happening around you. Don't go overboard on either because you want it to be relational to people who know you and follow you, but also to people who don't know you and don't follow you yet. Because if you're only showing your face and somebody new shows up, they're not really going to care. But if they see a cool event or venue or things happening, they're going to stick around. And then because you're also in it, they're going to get to know you. On the flip side of that, people who are already following you want to understand who you are and what you're doing. They want to see you. So if you're just showing venue stuff, they may scroll by it because they didn't recognize it as your content. So you got to make sure that you are spending time and effort, not only documenting the venue, but documenting yourself and then mixing it up in the video content you're creating, also applicable to your photo content. You want photos of you in the venue doing the things, but also you're going to want some cool, what's happening at this convention things to tell that story, which brings us to telling our story. As you are creating your content, specifically with video content, but also with photo content, you're telling us the tale of your time at this convention. So you can do this in a lot of different ways. It can be day in the life. It can be vlog style content. It can be a lot of B-roll stuff, but you're telling a story throughout this. So a basic look at this can be walking up to the venue, walking into the venue, a sweeping pan of the venue. You're going to want to get some shots of you inside of the convention. So talking to other people or, walking into the building. It depends on who you're working with, how much space you have, if you can set up a tripod, if somebody's going to be holding your camera for you. There's a lot of wiggle room within this, but you're telling the story. So you're actually showing us getting to the event and going into the event. Then you're going to be showing us things like the speakers and the vendors and the merchants and the people who are going to be participating in it that are not attendees. You're going to want to have footage of you talking to people because you want to show that you're social, that you're there in real time, that you're interacting and engaging with the event that you're at and not just documenting it. You want to make sure that you've got some close-ups of what's going on. So last night I went to an event. It was a big dinner for entrepreneurial women, and we had a dinner. We did a paint night. That was a bit of a surprise. We did conversations, and we were sitting around a table. And so I focused on some of the details, the flowers on the table, the candles on the table. I focused on the food as it was being passed around. I focused on the painting. But then you also want further away imagery as well. So you're going to want full shots of the room as everybody is eating, as everybody is painting, as everybody is doing things. So you want close-ups. Focus on those details in your photos and your videos, and then focus on that bigger picture so that people can really feel like they are immersed in what's going on, as if they were actually there. That's the entire point of telling stories when you're documenting this for social media. You're allowing people to experience something that they were not there and not a part of, but now they can feel like they were a part of it. So every time you go to document things, start to think about that storytelling aspect. How can you make someone who is not here feel like they were right alongside of you, enjoying everything just like you were? You want to make sure that you're documenting it all. And of course, as you're telling the story, you're going to want to wrap up the story as well. So you're going to get the things as they're closing. You're going to walk away, all of these things. And you want to tell stories. Now, again, stories can be told in many different ways. It can be a full day. Here's the full day of the first day of the convention. Or here's our morning. Here is me getting ready to go to the event. And you can literally just create a video of you getting ready to go to the event and then walking in the doors. And that's the end of that video. Then the next video might pick up inside or walking inside and going to some of the speakers and seeing some of the workshops. You can tell stories in segments. They don't have to be full big stories. In the book world, we've got novels, full-length books, and novellas, which are shorter stories and just part of what could potentially be a longer story. So you have the ability to tell those in the full version or in the segmented version as you are creating your stories for your documentation that allow people to feel like you're actually there or they are actually there with you. Now, keep in mind, we want to make sure we are doing things like group photos and videos because we're showing that we're social people. Having other people around us lends to social proof. We're not solo, we're not isolated, we're not by ourselves. We are with people. There's a real person behind the documentation going on. Group photos and videos are incredibly important. And you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can actually pull people in and take those group photos and videos, or you can kind of just pull a selfie and have people behind you and around you. The trick is to make sure you've got people. There's other people. It's not like you're in a room by yourself creating documentation. You're like, yes, I went to a convention. Well, how do we know that? We don't see the other people. So you have to make sure you are working at creating group photos and videos. And again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. If you are short on time, you don't have the ability to do everything, video first because you can take screenshots of it. You're not going to be using most of these photos anywhere other than social media, which is tiny. So the resolution doesn't matter. If you are creating content on your phone, it's already a lower resolution and you can only use it in so many places. You can't like print it out and put it on your wall, and you're not going to use these anywhere but a digital space anyway where it's going to be smaller. So it's okay to take those screenshots. If you can take photos while you're doing it, that's fine too, but your videos should be priority, and you should prioritize the landscape version that works best for you. Are you documenting this for YouTube where you're doing horizontal? Make sure you're filming in the horizontal version. But if you're only going to be creating content for short form vertical, film up and down. Just be smart about how you do this because you can't change it. Now, if you have time and the opportunity, do it both ways, but prioritize. Remember, we're saving time and effort. You want to make sure that you really are, spending the time that you need in the convention, having conversations, interacting with people rather than just constantly documenting. Now, documentation is highly important, but you guys already know how to work this into your schedule to make sure it's easier because we have tons of videos on that, and I help you to save your time and effort while documenting your life in the moment without taking it out of your time. Now, you also want to make sure that you're getting content of the speakers because if you're going to a convention, there will be speakers. You'll have the keynote speakers, you'll have the breakout sessions, you're going to have people who are introducing things and running the show. There will be a lot of people on stages or at least on something that represents a stage. Depends on what kind of convention you're at. You may actually have a physical stage. You may have people standing behind a table that's acting as a stage, but you want to make sure you're documenting the speakers. Now, when you do this, I do recommend getting a couple different types of content. So you do want to kind of hold it there and film them as it is as they're speaking, and you want to keep it nice and straight and steady. If you can put it on a tripod, that's fine. But you also, once you get a little bit of that, you're also going to want to kind of do some sweeping panning motions as well. You can even do something where you're just like flipping the phone around to get the entire crowd. You can bring it back over to you. I tend to hold my phone just like this so that it's in my hand just like this, and then I can just flip it around because as I do that, I can then bring the camera back to see me. I'm trying not to show you whatever's on my screen here, but you can actually flip it so that it turns around and faces you, and you can show yourself in the crowd as well. So you want to make sure you're getting content of the speakers to show that you were there and active, and you got to see all these really great speakers. And if you are doing things like vlogging, or you are going to have text overlays or conversations and voiceovers, you can talk about who you saw, all those great things, but make sure you are showing the reason that people came to the convention, the people who are educating and doing all the things. Now, you also want to make sure you're getting both selfie and non-selfie content. So as you are creating this content, yes, you should be holding up your phone and creating content just like this, but it means you're going to be close up. We also want further away content. We want more B-roll content, and selfie content and B-roll content are not the same thing. So at that point, you need to make sure you get some footage somewhere of you standing further away from your camera. You can hand your phone to somebody and have them film a little bit of it. That's fine. You can put it on a tripod. That's fine. You can use something like a flip stick and stick it to a wall. You can prop it up in a windowsill. You can prop it up on a chair leg or a couch. You can prop it up I'll take my purse and I'll set it somewhere and I'll lean my phone right against that purse so that it has something to be propped up against. So there's a lot of ways that you can prop your phone up. You can have it handed to somebody, you can put it on a tripod, whatever it happens to be, but you need to get it farther away from yourself so it looks like someone is documenting this for you, because you need both versions of that. If you only have selfie, that is not going to go well for your video. It's going to lower the value of it. So you want to make sure you're elevating that by standing further away and making it look like you are not hand holding or holding your phone or your camera source and creating this content for you. You want to make sure it looks like it's documented. And my final tip for you is to always over document, because if you do not have it, you cannot use it. But if you do have it, it doesn't mean you have to use it. So over document, over film, overtake photos. Make sure you're getting a ton of stuff. You don't have to use it all, but if you don't have it, you will probably regret not having that. Now, there are lots of ways that you can be documenting these events that you are attending. You want to make sure that you have an idea in mind. If you have nothing else before you walk into your conventions, have one video that you 100% want to do, and make sure you get the footage for that one video. And then if you can create additional videos, fantastic. I would say if you're going to a convention, you want to be creating at least a handful of videos. And that could be anything from, here's a day in the life at this convention or a behind the scenes of this convention. It can be a mini vlog. You can show off parts of the convention. You can even talk about, here's some cool people that I met at the convention, or here's the vendor hall at the convention. Here's the food that we ate on the 3-day convention that we went to. Here's all these things. So you can actually really build this out. You can do B-roll. You can take some of those singular clips and just pop some text over it and say, hey, it's day one, just a very short, like 3-second video, 5-second video. You can use this in many, 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 many ways. And I've got lots of videos on how to expand the life of your content. So if you're creating one piece of content, you can actually spiral that out into like 10 pieces of content super easily. There's videos on that, so make sure you're checking those out below. And if you got questions or comments, drop those down below too. Now, if you are A, going to a convention, or B, more importantly, you own a convention, I love to work with conventions to make sure their people are prepared to document the convention in advance. Now, it's better if you have me as a speaker at your convention, but you don't have to have me as a speaker at your convention in order to do this with me. If you have a cool convention, you can contact me. My contact information is on my YouTube page and on my website, and you can ask me to do a virtual live stream for your audience in your Facebook group or in your Discord group or wherever it happens to be, and I will help educate these people on how to document and save their time and effort. That means a couple minutes of video where I'm live inside of your group with you or without you, telling them exactly what to film, giving them a list of things to film for your specific convention to make sure that they feel easy and simple about documenting it for themselves, for their social media at your event. So reach out to me. I'm happy to help with this. I've done this for lots of conventions to make sure people are ready and they don't have to stress over their content creation because they know exactly what they're going to be doing, how they're going to be doing it. They can get it right away, and then they can get on into the convention without having to worry about documenting anything further. So drop those conversations down below if you would like to have me to speak on behalf of your convention and get people ready in advance before your event. If you want me to speak at your event, please reach out. And if you got questions on any of these, go ahead and drop them down below so I can get those answered for you. And stay tuned because we have more episodes inside of this mini series on in-person conventions that you do not want to miss out on, and daily videos to help you level up on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, live streaming, and with the tools and resources you need to save time and effort creating your social content so you can make more money on your social media while spending less time creating your content so you can get back to running your business and living your best life. I'll see you in the next episode.